that's why I love the office, because I get to play the game every day. If I'm a work from home and I've got a generation who works from home, I don't know how to play the game. I'm not in it.
You know, they're a bit weak in some areas and we think that we're going to take that challenge on. It gives us a good indication where we really need to hone in.
Your self-belief in yourself is too low and I need you to have a crack at this.
The leadership team, Tom and myself, and we said, okay, terrific, here are your values, that's great. Now don't tell anybody about it.
Starting point, I think as difficult as the conversation it is for you, just think about how it lands for them. Think about what about where they're at.
You know, what I say to people a lot is I say you can be on the right track. If you sit down, the train will run you over.
It comes back to the behaviours that you want, and the behaviours are influenced heavily by the values that you have.
You know, they're the master of their own domain. I'll just take what they say and try and form some good company decisions.
And it's a recipe for success. Yeah. And some of the poorer decisions I've made around people have been not taking into account what do they actually need.
Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise, a leader's story. The podcast that uncovers real stories behind impactful leadership. Join us as we explore how leaders cut through the chaos, master powerful listening, and build cultures of accountability and vision. Whether you're a seasonal executive or an emerging leader, this is your space to learn, grow, and lead with integrity. Let's slice through the noise together. Welcome, Brendan Flaxman. And you are my guest on Slicing Through the Noise. We spent lots of time together, Brendan. And I think one of the things that you've become great at is actually slicing through the noise, figuring out what the hell is going on. And today I really want to talk about that journey that you've taken yourself on throughout your career, the opportunities you picked up and how you notice what's going down. So let's start with your humble beginnings, sweeping the floors of Coates Hire and then moving into sales. How did you kind of know? I could do that. What had you do that?
It all really starts from fairly simple thoughts when we're young and we really don't know what we want to do.
Yeah.
I'd been through a accident at work prior to starting with. It wasn't actually Coates then; it was a smaller company called Shawco. But yeah, I'd been through a fairly significant injury and wasn't able to find my space. When I left school, believe it or not, I really wanted to be a motor mechanic, and I left school in 1990.
Yeah.
I do look younger, but it's because I've had such an easy life. In 1990, it was all about a recession that we had to have, and people don't really think about that anymore. But at that moment in time, being young and leaving school, and I left home really early. You needed to work. So I really wanted to be a motor mechanic, and I got to work in a few places for 6 months at a time. So it would build me up and then I'd get knocked down. So I think some of that resilience sort of came from that. And then I was actually working on a farm, had an accident on a machine, and it was fairly significant. It was kind of life-changing at that moment in time. It took me out for about 6 months.
Wow.
And then from that, I really needed to figure out what I was going to do. I needed a job. I had to feed myself. Living in my car wasn't an option. So I just applied for back in those days, it was actually an ad in the local paper. So we didn't have any of these new fandangle things that you have these days. And I must have been pretty committed, and I would say even to a point of desperation at that point that I got my Sunday finest on and went to the interview and got the job at Shawco. And I was just willing to do anything, and it didn't really matter what it was. During that time, it was really something that I could get my teeth into, and I found a bit of a groove for wanting to learn. I'd turned 20, still quite young, and at that time it was never really my intention to have that as my career pathway. And from that, I think it was just a willingness to learn. And from those sort of small moments, if you like, opportunities started to present themselves because of the fact that I had a desire to learn more. And I remember walking into my boss, his name was Steve, and saying, Steve, surely there's more that I can do. And I think to his surprise, he didn't really know what to do with somebody that wanted to do more. So from that moment in time, there was opportunities to go and try new things. The most obvious was to go into a sales type role, and he gave me the opportunity to go out and sort of talk to some customers, really not knowing what to do. But they were all friendlies. They were all people that we'd been dealing with for a long time, people that I'd met coming in and out of the branch. And from that perspective, it was quite simple because there was no real need for me to perform. It was just an opportunity to see whether or not it would be something that I'd like. So that's kind of how it led. Yeah. And then from there, through some determination, a few sort of knocks down, and a couple more bumps up the career path, you just never know where you're going to end up. So yeah, it was quite a humble beginning.
Yeah. So it's like what I'm hearing that most people don't get. No one becomes the CEO today, right, and walks in at age 20, the CEO.
So let me tell you got to ask yourself, do you want to be the CEO before you get to that point? But absolutely not. Yeah. And if you look at some of those simple things that you did back then, how does it inform you today as the CEO of Maybe? It really comes back to being able to identify the fact that people, do have some strengths in areas. Sometimes it's strengths that they don't even know that they have. And I really see the opportunity for business growth to be within the people that are in the business. And I really enjoy the fact that people better themselves and actually come through a company. There's a lot of short tenure sort of psychology around, people getting instant reward through, I'll move every 2 years with the view that I'm going to get more money at each step. The problem with that is that 2 years worth of experience isn't 2 years gain each time. So the reality is, when I'm looking for people, like someone that's actually got decent tenure actually means something to me because it gives me something to work with. It tells me that person can be committed to something. So, what
do you think decent tenure is?
I really think that when you have an apprenticeship, you do 4 years.
Yes.
So 4 years in a job gives you a qualification.
Yeah.
And then time after that in the same job gives you the skill.
Experience.
Right? So experience counts for a lot of different things. Yeah. And just because you've got the qualification doesn't give you the experience. Experience is something that you get to gain from every day.
Yeah.
So someone that's been in a role for 4 years, they've kind of earned their stripes. And then if they've maintained that role for longer, it's the things that they've learned and forgotten that people haven't even learnt yet that actually make the difference. There's a real confidence around experience, a confidence that isn't false, and it's not it's not shallow.
Yeah.
So you can definitely read into it.
I love that like when you've got experience, it actually mitigates a lot of things because that won't work. Doesn't matter what you learnt over there at university or in your apprenticeship, that doesn't work. And the only way you get that is through experience.
Yes.
And a lot of times, if you're sitting in that seat of teaching someone else, that's the stuff that actually counts. So this whole 2-year tenure thing doesn't work. Like I can remember when my son said he'd come and work at Integrity and Values, and he said, "Oh, I'll give you 2 years." I said, "Well, you haven't got the job. I'll find someone else."
I'm sure Jay was excited about that news.
And then we had other people that applied for the role that he was applying for at the time. That was 16 years ago. So 16 years later, he runs the company, but he earned his stripes, and through experience he knows. And that's what I know you bring to conversations. Is like, I've heard you say it to your people, this is experience talking. That not going to work.
And it's quite an interesting element, because you don't want to pour cold water on a hot flame, of someone's ambition and also someone's intelligence and what it is that they really believe is right.
Yeah.
The issue with that is actually getting somebody to acknowledge that there's a degree of inquiry that needs to go into some of these decisions, and with that inquiry means that you will actually gain experience from someone that may have already done it before, rather than just thinking this is the best idea ever, so I'm just going to take it, and I don't really care what you say. I don't care that you've done it. I'm going to do it different to you.
Yep.
So therefore I'm going to be right and you're going to be wrong, and this is going to be so good, and I'm going to be able to show you that I know better than you. The reality of all that is there's no togetherness there. There's no team. There's no let's take what you're so enthusiastically passionate about and actually do something with what a baseline has been before, and actually turn it into something, rather than it just be a right-wrong thing.
Yep. And also that whole piece about when you're growing people, there is a baseline, and people come with X experience or no experience, and then they want to tell you what to do. And you want to get me rolled up, it's that one.
Oh, I didn't want to get you that started so early, but anyway, give me time. We'll get there.
Give you time. Let's wind her up, and not honour experience, because my experience is that when someone comes in and they've got that experience, I'm going to bow to it. I'm going to go, okay, you tell me, because I don't know anything about this. So let's just look at, we can, this is just going to be a conversation about your whole world in leadership, and, how you've climbed ladders and moved across sectors, right? So you said yes to opportunities, and you end up running crews and everything, and you're pretty young. Yeah.
Yes.
So at 22, you're running crews of men that are much older than you, right? And what did you walk away with from those formative years when you were the boss, and yet these guys had 20 years of experience on you?
A lot of resentment.
Oh, so you drank poison, did you?
Absolutely. I think that, I remember one of the senior people coming to me. This was after Shawco was acquired by Coates, and I was probably, not probably, I was a little bit older by that stage, but I was the youngest manager within the team that was acquired, and I just I remember succinctly to this day him walking up to me and saying, "Well, you're just not mature enough for this role," to which I took great exception to. You're calling me immature, which isn't what he said, yet that's what I heard. I heard that I'm immature, when realistically the maturity was the time, the experience, so the transition was going from a small mum and dad company, which was still fairly significant, multi-location hire business that had been started from scratch. And, the fellow that owned it was really proud of what he had achieved. And here he is selling to a multinational, which then became a listed company. And you're going into that environment thinking that, I've put my time in here. I've worked my way through. I've done my apprenticeship. Sort of, yet I'm 24 years old. At 22, I've started this process. Yet I'm still immature, because that's what I heard. So therefore, you start building up your own barriers around this to what you're prepared to listen to. And I think that that's just part of the growth part. You know, the opportunities thing, I think, comes about because of a couple of different reasons. One, you show that you actually are willing to do something different and you're prepared to put the work in. I came from a very humble beginning as far as from a working family. We didn't have a lot. I spent my high school years working in a family business from the age of 13 till I left school. So I wasn't immune to knowing what work was all about, and I was prepared to put the effort in without the pay.
Yes.
So that gave me the opportunities that others may or may not have received because of the fact that I was willing to put the work in before I got it. So when things
You were slave labour.
well, I probably would qualify for that.
Yeah, my children told me they were slave labour in my businesses.
Yeah, well, I wasn't on an hourly rate. Let's just put it that way.
You got a little stipend because you were a good boy.
I got to eat. You know, that was great.
You got to eat.
Yeah, I got to eat and go to school. So, but again, you know, it wasn't one of those things. So, you know, going to work was just one of those traits, I suppose, had been ingrained in me, which was definitely a benefit.
Yeah.
If I think back at it now, I hated every minute of it, and you know, it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah, it was hard work.
It was.
Yeah,
but now, I'm actually grateful for that. You know, that upbringing gave me the skills, the determination, and the desire to do what I've done, and the opportunities is all about being able to say yes, rather than get carried away with the fear of what could be or what should be, or, you know, am I up to it? Or, you know, you've got to really have that determination, discipline to actually see it through.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, to take on anything, whether it's, you know, moving up to run a crew at a young age, to running the sales team, to being the national manager and all those things, each step along the way now has you step up. Now, can you actually deliver? Can you, because we can always look at the boss and go, I could do that better than them, until you sit in the chair and then you look like a wally.
Yeah. And I think for me, having setbacks, you know, having the no's, fueled my determination at a greater level. So, and again, exactly what you were just saying with, you know, looking up and thinking, well, you know, there is something different, you know, yet understanding how to approach that in an appropriate way, in a way that is, you know, going to be accepted, not just by, you know, management, but by people around you. There's a certain arrogance that starts creeping in, and self-awareness becomes, you know, quite key. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. You know, the reality is, just because I knew better didn't make me right all the time, and I had to learn that the hard way from a lot of people.
A few people come and knock you over the head and say hello.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal back in the, you know, early 2000s, around some of these things where, you know, there just wasn't the patience that there is today.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me too, like, you take on a franchise as an MD for Century 21 and then you jump into equipment hire to property franchising. It's not an obvious move.
No, again, that was...
And what transferable lessons did real estate teach you that construction never could?
Well, I don't know if construction never could, but what real estate taught me was how to go broke.
How to go broke?
Yeah, so that was a really good life lesson.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd worked my way through a fantastic career at Coates, and, you know, sort of fringed on just under 12 years of being there. I'd built a pretty good life for myself. Both my wife and I worked. You know, we were the typical, you know, double income, no kids at that point in time. And then we started having kids. We'd structured our life so that way she could give up work, so that way we could raise the boys. We had them fairly close together, 15 months apart.
Fabulous.
It was spectacular. I was still in a state-based role, so I was doing a lot of travel for the company at that point in time. And, it was just one of those things that it was time for a change. And my family run a real estate business, and by this stage you got to understand, like I'm 30, 32. I think I know everything about business.
Oh, you do?
I am well educated. I've been in the corporate world. I've built teams. I've had a fantastic sales team. Selling real estate is just sales. Like, how hard could it be? But it wasn't about sales. That part I was always confident with, sometimes not good at, because realistically, real estate sales is different to selling shoring panels in the construction industry. So going into that was more of a heartfelt thing. It was sold to me as more time at home with the family.
You're right.
And it was about being a businessman and being part of the family business, only to find out that the family business was on its knees. It had huge tax issues. The reality is it wasn't run very well. I got to learn this over the first 2 years, and then my time at home was not there at all. I was working 7 days a week to make ends meet, and then only to get to the point where the decision was made to sell the business. So again, had to work my way through learning what does that mean. Got the business to a point where we could do that, and then only to have the rug pulled out from underneath me by my parents to say, well, we're not prepared to sell. And then it was kind of a bit messy after that. But the reality is I walked out of there with every credit card I had maxed out, nothing in the bank, but I hung on to the house. So that was the only thing.
I got the house.
But before, when I left Coates, I walked out of there. I had my shares paid out. We had a great nest egg. Jennifer didn't have to work. It was a great spot to be in.
Yeah.
So what did it teach me? It taught me business.
Yeah.
And then moving back into that space of desperation to then go back into the industry that I actually was good at and loved was a natural transition.
Yeah.
So
good life lesson.
Fantastic life lesson.
So if you were talking to people that are looking at, wanting to go and invest in businesses or walk in as part owners, what's the thing that you would say to them they better get their act together about before they go and sign the piece of paper or say yes?
Yeah. The one thing, and I get asked this question a little bit more regularly than you think, and the one thing is that you've just got to be prepared to sacrifice. Yeah. You've got to be prepared to work. No one's going to do it for you. Yeah. If you think that you're just going to walk in and have the title and that all these wonderful things are going to happen to you, you're sadly mistaken. And I think that people sort of see that, especially now that there's social media is such a huge influencer over people's decision making. They see all the really shiny things, the flash cars and the nice clothes and the trips away. But no one's actually putting the work on loudspeaker. No one's actually putting the backbone that makes those things happen. And a lot of those pictures that you see aren't actually reality. So it kind of entices people into a space of feeling confident about what they want, yet they really don't know how to get there. So therefore, it's the seeking of understanding and that curiosity to learn has to be really the key. Yeah. And if you're not willing to do that, don't do it.
Yeah, so I reckon when you walk into a business and you're going to lead it or you're going to be part of the executive, you got to put your trainer wheels on.
Yeah.
Put the trainer wheels on. And, like I've watched my grandchildren, probably more so than I watched my children learn to ride. And I see them wobbling all over the place. And I reckon that leadership, learning to lead and actually grow business is a little bit like that. And you have your trainer wheels on for 4 or 5 years going, what the heck? This is supposed to have been easy. And I remember talking, and you'd probably relate to this, to a young guy who's had just bought out some franchisee thing or whatever it was that he bought. And I said to him, and he's trying to tell me, you know, he's going to earn $200,000 a year and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And I went, oh. I said, and you think you're going to work 9 to 5? I said, there's only you in this business and 2 other people. And do you think they're going to show up? I said, no. You want to get this. You're going to do 60-hour weeks. And you're going to do that for about 3 or 4 years, and then you'll get a holiday. Is that kind of reality?
Absolutely, in reality. The difference is, though, it's not about going to work.
No.
Because I have to go to work. It's
Yep.
going to work because you actually want to do something.
Yeah.
You want to achieve something.
Yeah.
And the thought of that whole waking up on Monday and, I don't want to do it and I'm just going to pull a sickie, it isn't even part of your
Psyche.
relationship with work.
Yes.
You know, there's at the end of each week, there's a whole raft of things that you need to do for the week ahead.
Yeah.
So the time disappears and all of a sudden the year's gone. And you don't think of it as, I didn't have a holiday and, you know, I feel resentful for the fact that, you know, I've got to keep doing this and I've got to keep turning up and, you know, I can't be sick. And, you know, again, that's just all your self-talk. The reality is that the more involvement you have, the greater the opportunity, but also you're going to make some mistakes along the way. So there's no perfect road. So along the way, when those mistakes happen is, okay, how do I clean that up? What have we learnt from it? What are we going to change? Is there a system, a process that we have to then go into some sort of change management model over? All these things actually take time. And, you know, as a leader or a business owner, the 9 to 5 way of life is gone.
It's a nonsense.
So if you want a 9 to 5 day of life, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself, because the reality is business failure is
High.
prevalent.
Yep.
It's everywhere. And that's because of the fact that it's not what everybody thinks it's going to be. You know, it's tough.
I think we could go right back to that piece that you said in the beginning. Social media shows you all the shiny things. It doesn't actually show you how tough it is to actually have one shiny moment for 5 seconds. And that's what we see on social media, is the one shiny moment, when actually it took 2 years to get to that shiny moment with a lot of blood, sweat, and sometimes and often tears.
Yeah. I believe in the fact that there's a lot of differences in industry.
Yes.
And a lot of the shiny stuff that we see is all in the tech world.
Yes.
Now, if you're in the tech world, good on you. And, you know, suck it up. The reality is that you're not alone. And there's a lot of people that want to play in that space. And there's been some fortunate decision-making and some really cool ideas that have made a lot of money, and they've made it really quickly. It's then what those people do with that money that sort of makes a difference. It's just such a minority. You know, it's not everybody. So,
Well, I think everybody wants to create the next Facebook. Yeah?
Yeah.
And, well, hello, that boat sailed.
yeah.
And yet, the grassroots business that you're in construction, no building gets built without you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Because so far technology hasn't got to the point where you still don't need a person to pick up a shovel. And that still happens to this day. So it's the same as you can't work from home if you're laying pipe in the ground. You know, you can't work from home if you're driving a truck to deliver something to something, or you can't work from home if you're manufacturing something. Again, it all just boils down to you know the whether it's social media or whether it's society, either. There's a lot to be made up here of you know what's real, and what's real is people still need to do stuff, and there's a real social aspect to a working life too.
It's fabulous. You walk in and the buzz.
I sort of relate this back to new people that start with us, because ultimately, businesses are just a culture. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's still a culture. But new people that come in, now these are people that are coming into people's lives that they're going to spend, minimum of 8 hours a day with. Normally they would never know each other, and all of a sudden they're going to do wonderful things and create amazing outcomes of being together. Yet they would never do that if they didn't choose to. They chose to walk into that business. They then not always choose to get along with everybody. The reality is that where do you fit within the team, and what difference are you going to make? That's what actually gives back to you. So, but realistically, all a business is a bunch of strangers coming together with some skills to make something happen. Now, you just don't do that at home.
Yeah, you don't.
So, and it's not to say that there isn't particular roles that work well for working at home. Absolutely there is. Yet, it's not every industry. And I think that it's been tarred with, since the COVID thing, that it's every industry. It just isn't the way. So roads don't get built by people sitting at home on their lounge.
Well, I don't know, robot going to do it or something?
Oh, I'm sure one day it will. I'm sure Elon's going to come up with something to sort of make us all redundant. The reality is that today is that things just don't happen unless people actually do something. And, being at home and being alone, like there's a time for that. I just don't think it's all the time.
Yeah. And also, there's a lot of research that's coming out now that although, yes, it's useful and people can work from home when they've got a specific thing that they just want to get done. The problem is that when you're at home, this is my experience because I do some days at home, I find myself going, I waste time. And I know I do. And that's the truth. Right? Because there is no one for me to interact with. And for me to interact, I have to pick up the phone and dial, right? Or I've got to go on Teams, which just gives me the heebie-jeebies. And so I go, no, I actually love going into the office and I love the vibe and that feeling of people just laughing and talking together, and they create and collaborate more.
Yeah.
Collaboration is the thing, and innovation is lost with the whole when people are separated, because you bounce off each other.
Yeah.
And you go, what about this? And what about that? And then you go, and then you don't see what's happening that's not working if you're not all together.
I just love the energy, the emotion, the passion, the things that come out of nowhere, will never happen in isolation. So, having people together, gives people the chance to actually try new things, and, gives you the opportunity to actually change something for the better and develop someone and see something in somebody. And there's so many intrinsic things that you get from being part of people's lives that you just don't get if you're sitting at home behind a screen. So, but I could go on and on about working from home for a lot.
I think you and most of our clients, go, no, I want you here because I can interact with you then. I can guide you. I can grow you. So one of the things that I know for you is you've got a phrase of people first, safety always. And I was thinking back to that first experience of working on a farm and getting a serious injury. How did that shape that part of how you look at maybe? You're in construction, what you do is actually dangerous.
Yeah. We are absolutely in a high-risk environment. Safety is a cultural thing. Safety is led from the top down, and it's because it's actually time. People are always in a hurry to do more, even though it might not be actually efficient. So my thing around safety is it's a moment.
Yeah.
It's a moment in time, a split second decision that could actually determine someone's life. So, our safety vision or mantra is everyone home safe every day. So the reality is that you can make a split second decision that could actually have an impact on your whole life. And unfortunately, I've been involved with those sorts of scenarios. And when you train yourself, I went and did a course on how to investigate an accident, so that way you can do it in an official capacity. It always comes down to a root cause. So it used to be finding fault, but now it's not about finding fault. It's actually about what decisions did that individual make to get to that point. Now, there's always going to be opportunities that areas could influence that. So, whether it be a machine that's unsafe, it still comes down to going all the way back to the choice to operate that machine, rather than actually flag that to say, hey, this machine isn't safe to operate. So again, all that becomes a cultural thing, as opposed to, I'll just get this done, or I'll just climb up on this thing, or I'll just, it's all those I'll just moments that actually create the danger. And then if you speak to most people that have an accident, half the time they don't even know what happened, because, I was just there and then I wasn't. So it has a massive impact on how a business works. So, and can people take advantage of safety as being a kind of a get out of doing something? Absolutely. The reality is, if the culture is there because we're actually conscious of people's well-being, and the last thing we want to do is see one of our teammates hurt, that's a completely different scenario to somebody saying, I'm just not going to do that because I don't think it's safe. So
there's the mantra of safety, and it's a cultural leadership issue.
Yes.
Rather than, I'm not doing that because it's not safe.
Yeah.
That's just like, hang on a second. Is it not safe, or you just don't want to do it?
That's exactly right. So I think it comes down to the reason why I believe in the fact that it starts from the top, and it's actually a two-way street. So in our business, we have a saying around safety that it's okay to be challenged and it's okay to challenge. So therefore, if I'm walking past something, it's then up to me to recognise that. And if someone's walking past me and I'm doing something that's left of field, well, then it's okay to challenge that. It doesn't matter on the level of where you sit in the company. You can be the boss all you like. It doesn't give you an excuse to just do it whichever way you like. So the reality of it all is that we don't want to see anybody hurt in our business. When you're managing somebody that's been injured, it's a long road, and it's something that's quite difficult for people to come back to as well. So there's a lot of different reasons for it not to be okay, but the 5 minutes or 5 seconds sometimes that it takes to make a solid decision can actually be more efficient than actually just going at it,
barreling down this road.
Absolutely, like every good young person loves to do these days. She'll be right, mate.
Yeah. Nah. I mean, that's the hard thing in that whole, there's a lot of lip service paid to it, and people are seriously injured, and some even die.
Yes.
Because a split second someone wasn't thinking.
Yep.
Or they dismissed a safety rule.
Absolutely. And I find it quite interesting that generally in my experience, the individual that's hurt is the person that hasn't actually been responsible.
Nice. Say more about that.
Well, it comes down to the fact that the person themselves is the person that put themselves in harm's way. So whether it be somebody lifting something and creating a back injury, it's, everybody knows what they should and shouldn't lift. Everybody's taught, even at primary school now, how to lift things. Even back when I went to school, which was a really long time ago, we were still taught to lift by bending our knees and keeping our back straight. Yet these are decisions that individuals get to make for themselves, yet companies need to manage when the mistake is made and the ownership isn't there for that person to go, well, I shouldn't have put my hand in that machine, or I shouldn't have lifted that 100 kilo thing thinking that, well,
I can do that.
I can bench 100 kilos at the gym, so I should be able to lift that. There's all standards and rules in place to save you from the trauma of doing that. Yet it's what happens afterwards. So in our experience, even putting yourself in harm's way, you could be walking near a forklift or an excavator, or, having something go over your head. As an individual that you're actually...
That's stupid.
That you're in an unsafe environment and that there's risk. So therefore your analysis of your own self-worth then needs to actually go, well, hang on, I'm probably not supposed to stand here because that could fall on me. So,
and then it did.
And then it does. And like there's many stories and, around that. And unfortunately there's been some really key things that have happened in my career that, like people just don't come back from,
Yep.
So yeah, I take it very seriously. I don't want any of my people, even someone that's worked for me for a day, I don't want them hurt. If they don't like it, I'd rather they don't like it. I don't want to see anybody actually hurt.
Yeah. So I just really love that whole thing about safety is a leadership issue. It is not anything else. And if the leaders don't actually adhere to it, now it doesn't happen. Yeah. And people get hurt. So one of the things that people say is one of your superpowers. You've got superpowers.
Do I?
Your colleagues say that you have a superpower of seeing the potential in others before they see it in themselves. Can you recall a time when you bet on a rough diamond who later shone?
Yeah, I bet on a few.
Yeah.
And
what do you look for?
It's a really good question, and I don't really know the answer to it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a certain feeling or an engagement of how you build the relationship with somebody, what it is that people are prepared to contribute to you as what you're prepared to contribute to them. I think there's a lot of different components to that. It's it's very common for people to say it's a superpower. I think sometimes it's just a belief in people, and I think that belief comes from the fact that I believe that you make people. They've still got to want to make it themselves.
So they've got to be willing.
There's got to be a willingness for them to want something, not just want it for the grandeur or the pay packet or the flash car. There's
or the title.
The title's always a good one. Titles don't mean anything.
Titles don't mean anything.
They don't actually give you anything extra.
No.
So we can make up some really cool titles for people if they really want them, yet they're not going to actually deliver anything.
Yeah.
So I really just believe in being able to develop people that want to be developed, I think.
Yeah.
And I push myself fairly hard with this, and it hasn't always been successful. And I've hung my hat on quite a few people that have not gone where I thought that they would go. Yet that's their choice. That's not my choice.
I think that's one of the toughest things is that you put the opportunity out there. I think you can do this. And to do it, these are the actions that you need to take. So those 3 questions that we ask ourselves about people, are they willing? Yeah. Have they got learning agility?
Mm-hmm.
Can they actually take the mentoring and the coaching from inside the business to grow and develop? And, do they do the work? Yeah. Because it takes work to do that kind of growing. It's not, there's there's the thing that you do in your apprenticeship to use the spanner, let's just say.
Yeah.
And then there's when to use the spanner and when not to.
Yeah.
Right? And that's that capacity that you have to think on your feet. So what's someone that you can think of in your business? I can think of someone in your business right now that I think you didn't take a risk, you took a really calculated decision on her and you bet right.
Oh, absolutely. I think that people sort of come into your life in different ways, and the reality is, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
She definitely wanted. It wasn't that she wanted more. She was prepared to do more without actually being. It wasn't a request. There's initiative there, and when you see initiative, it's something that you really need to be quite humble about. And initiative is really the fuel for someone's desire to do something greater than what they've ever done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the start. It's like the key that unlocks the lock.
Yeah.
And the benefit for that is you get this situation where you've had this person that's got energy, and it gives you energy to want to give. And it doesn't take away from the fact that the work has to be done. That sort of goes without saying. Yet it's actually not. It doesn't feel like work. Things happen, and then all of a sudden, you're shocked by something that's actually been done without your knowledge. Yet it's right in line with what's required. And sometimes, I don't even know what's required.
Yeah.
And you get overwhelmed with appreciation of the effort that's been put in, the thought that's been put in. It's all extra. It's not just turning up, clipping the ticket, going home, doing it 5 days a week or 6.5 days a week, whatever it is. That they've actually come in with the willingness, desire, drive, determination, discipline to just do more than what is written on their position description.
Yeah.
It's such a great feeling.
It's a fabulous feeling. And when people do take that initiative, as leaders, we just want to give them more. We want to go, okay, what can I do to grow you, to develop you, to give you that opportunity to rise above where you are right now. So you're known for turning suppliers into collaborators, yeah, and customers and supplier relationships. What's your playbook for moving a vendor conversation from price to partnership? Because you do partner with your clients rather than
Yeah. I think this really comes back to the customer. We're actually a business that's really heavily service based. We deal in a like for like product. It's easy to just play Jack the Slasher and lower the price.
I like that Jack the Slasher. I gotta remember that one.
And just do everything on price. The reality is that expertise gives us the ability to solve problems. And that's where the partnering really comes into it, is that we go into a project nice and early. We actually learn and understand what is required, and we assist in ways that might not just be financial, that gives the customer a benefit, and sometimes that's seen and sometimes it's not. Again, the reality is everybody is consumed by their own business, and whether or not they see value in it is really up to them. Relationships in my career, I've got relationships that I've had since I started on the road a really long time ago. 30 or getting close to 30 years ago. And they're still there.
Yep.
And that all comes from, being there at those crisis points, and, when the tension's really high and something needs to be done. I really pride myself on the fact that there's always got to be an answer. Problems arise every minute of every day. You can either choose to be the problem, or you can choose to be part of or the solution. the one thing that I really acknowledge and kind of goes against me sometimes is a bit of a rescuer when it comes to being the end of the line, is that there's always got to be a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So you can either be the answer or you're not. And if you're not, then you mislead somebody and makes it worse, or you don't know. Sometimes you just have to do the work to find the answer.
Yeah. Have you ever found, this is my experience in business, is you go the extra mile for clients. You do that little bit more, and that forging of that partnership now has you able to, when you need something as a supplier, to go to the client and say, look, can you in any way do this?
Yeah, I think construction is quite a difficult environment to be able to fuel that. Our biggest issue is really going to be when it comes to, getting paid.
Yeah.
Getting paid is really the key element. So you want to be, at the top of the list. Unfortunately, we're generally at the bottom of the list because of where we sort of fall in the cycle.
Yeah.
So, that I think that does stand for something when, people can recognise that for you, and they can at least come, you can at least go to them with a degree of knowledge about who they are. And sometimes it's about how we work with people to actually get them towards an outcome. So, I'd like to say that every time it's appreciated.
No.
The reality is that's not the case.
Sometimes what you do is so hidden, they don't know what you were giving until they don't have you anymore as their supplier.
Yeah, which is a real shame, right?
Yeah.
And we see it quite often within our space where, someone will be your number one, and then they'll be the competitor's number one, and then they'll be your number one, and it does sort of float around like that. There's definitely a place. The key element is that you never give up. You never give up. Never be too proud. You got to remember, what our purpose is. Our purpose is to supply. So that's why we're there. Our vision is uncompromising service to deliver successful projects. So that's what we live by every day.
And, I love that word that you're uncompromising about it. We are going to deliver this service, and we're going to do it in the way that we know works best. Yeah. So what happens when you see any kind of fudging on that one? What happens to you when you see that happen?
Yeah. This is where emotions aren't a good gauge of reality, Jennifer. So I think that structure is really important to be able to deliver any sort of sustainable business. So structure, processes, systems, people being prepared to own those things and be responsible, not to shortcut. Generally, every time we muck something up, it's because we've shortcutted it. And again, it's kind of like going back and doing that little bit of analysis around, what could we have done better? Every mistake or every failure is an opportunity to learn. So, and it could be that somebody's, newer to the business or actually been in the business for a while, and they've been around it long enough to be confident that they think that they know that they can do it better. So rather than go through the
due process,
the right way of doing something, I'll just give it a crack and we'll see what happens. Usually to some degree of success, but generally it's a failure of some description. So again, it's just, we can beat our chests and yell and scream. That actually isn't going to change anything. Hindsight's a really easy book to read. Prediction's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. So I thought we'd talk a little about the trends and the future tech inside of digitising temporary works, which is really the work that you guys do, from sensor-laden struts to digital bridge twins, right? Now, I don't really understand what that really means. Which technologies are you already piloting, and which do you feel are just like hype?
I think for us, going back to what we were talking about earlier with, just the way that the world's going within the tech space, and that, there's going to be elements that are going to be really advantageous, especially within the engineering space, to give us speed. Yet it doesn't take away the human element. A lot of the things that we do are only as good as the information that we get. So I think that cleaning up the information trail to give us more clean data is actually going to be more of a benefit. There's always a space around digital marketing and space and really how we promote ourselves within the market. That is quite interesting because we are still very traditional with regard to that. We're still on the road salespeople. We're still, going and boots on the ground, in the mud, in the dirt, and we want to be involved with our customers, and that's really still the best way of us being able to, promote our product, sell our product, assist our customers, create the service that we really pride ourselves on. That's still going to be a big part of our business. I don't really think that a digital space is going to ever take that away. There's no question that being within the digital marketplace is really important. Yet I don't think you can just watch Google and learn how to do some of this stuff. As much as I'd love to say you can, and you can, absolutely, it still doesn't take away from the hundreds, if not thousands, of projects that we've actually seen being put in the ground and delivered, that you're not going to get that degree of experience through that digital space.
So the government's putting in a whole bunch of criteria and they want carbon light construction. So how's maybe cutting embodied steel and rethinking higher models to meet those targets? Because it's big.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it goes all the way down to the back end of your supply chain. So when you really digest some of these government contracts, they especially if we want to talk about the upcoming games, they want to...
There's huge opportunities.
Well, they want a zero emissions games.
Oh, really?
That's the claim. The reality of that is that you've got to have carbon offsetting for that. How you get the raw material to become a part, and then that part to become something that's actually going to get used. There's a lot of process that goes in that. We've been part of the real environmental side since we were part of the Maybe Group. It was a huge factor because of the fact that we were in bridge manufacturing. So again, it's just about solar power on every location and carbon neutral steel and suppliers that are actually aligned to those sorts of things. It's actually a really difficult thing because it comes from the highest level of government. The decisions that they make will dictate the outcomes for us.
Yeah. And also they're not there on the ground. To get some of their great highfalutin ideas into reality is a whole nother story.
It has created a whole different market for people that are environmental scientists that actually can come into this this space and actually guide people in construction around that. Yet there's a lot of things in the world that we could do a lot better. Everyone still walks around with plastic bottles of water, which is still the hugest problem globally from an environmental perspective. So yeah, I think that where we sort of sit, we can do as much as we can do. We're reliant heavily on the people that are in the industry and also our suppliers themselves and realistically where they sit within this space.
Okay. So let's go to a couple of other things that I know you and I have talked about is like, when you're looking at a business, say someone's looking at a business that they want to buy, and how do you discern like this is actually the thing, right? And you said something to me earlier. You said cash is king, right? And most people don't actually understand that. Right? Yeah. They have some kind of weird calculation in the background that what you want to know is where's the cash? So talk to me about that.
Absolutely. I think it comes from one, my experience with the family business, you kind of learn about the fact that it doesn't actually take a lot to send a business south. You could be turning over, $100 million, but if it's costing you $100,001 to run, you're insolvent. So the key to it all is that whenever you're going into any sort of prospective environment is, okay, how are we actually going to generate the cash that's going to maintain the cost base to keep us going, and how much cash do we actually need to run for 3 months, 6 months, a year, if there was to be no work. So, and I don't think that people really think that through, because we all believe that the work's always going to be there, and sometimes it just isn't. So, so for me, cash generation in a business is what gives it sustainability, gives it the ability to reinvest. There's always reinvestment. Every year, something in the business gets old, and you need to replace it. And whether that's inflationary pressures from wages or other decisions that are outside of our control, cost of things are the cost of things. So, so reality is that if you can't generate the cash to pay even the smallest bill, that could be the one that actually sends you over the cliff.
Yeah. So if you were talking to people who are in business today, running business, what would you tell them about how to look for where the hell the cash is? Where's it gone?
I find it quite amusing, especially coming from the corporate background. So I probably don't reflect enough on the environments that I've been in and the places that I've got to learn from. So the corporate environment's really cool. You get to learn all these awesome acronyms that mean a lot of stuff in that space. It's a good way of being able to baffle people with brilliance that sometimes you don't even understand yourself. And
you just have the acronym.
The support of being a listed company or an equity group or even high net worth individuals is that's your backstop. The fact is that you might read a balance sheet and go, okay. So, we've got greater assets over liabilities, so business is strong. Well, that's not always the answer. You might be able to read a P&L and look at an operating profit line and go, oh, well, look at how much money we made. Well, that's not what you've actually made yet. You still haven't paid the things that go below that line. One of the big ones is the T, tax. And unfortunately, there's so many companies in Australia that are on tax payment plans, it's ridiculous. Yet, what's our government doing about that? Again, I'm not here to talk about politics. I just don't think that that's actually viable. Australia, it thrives on small business.
Yeah.
So if that's going to change, I think it's going to change the lifestyles of a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, tax is a hard one.
Tax is a tough one.
It's a very tough one.
Yeah.
And, we're tax collectors. I feel like that's what I feel like.
Yes,
I
we
feel
are.
like I'm a tax collector. And I pay tax. And if I don't pay this tax, well, they're going to put me in jail. Right? So it's a big thing.
Yes.
And I don't think that, and I'm not here to have some political argument about it, but it would be good if they kind of really asked us what it's like.
Yeah.
How much does it cost us to collect tax on your behalf?
Yeah.
But they're not interested.
I don't think that question's ever going to get asked, Jennifer.
No one wants to know that one. Okay, so let's talk about your personal passions and how you've balanced things. So I'm really cognizant of the fact that you've worked really hard for over 30 years and you've travelled a lot and you've done all kinds of things that actually keep you, and I know your wife's name's Jennifer, so she must be great, even though she doesn't spell it the same way as I do. But like that relationship is so profound in your life and your boys, and you've still travelled an enormous amount.
Yes.
Yeah. How have you kept that up?
I'm quite fortunate. I have an amazing wife who's a great support. She supported me through some really poor decisions. some would have called them opportunities. I probably would have been that person. And the reality is that she's given me the freedom to be me as I have for her. So having that support mechanism is incredibly important, when you're spending, I think some of my biggest travel years have been 8 months away.
Yeah.
4 months at home, obviously not all in one go. You're breaking that up.
Yeah.
And I'm just really grateful for my kids that, they've grown up and they're not, or at least I believe that they're not. They don't resent the lifestyle that was created from that, because realistically, it's given them the lifestyle that they enjoy today. So there's a lot of learning that goes along the way, and there's definitely the odd argument here and there that just goes without saying.
Normal.
It's just because we're all emotional beings. I think where it's really helped me over the last few years is that, as you sort of get a bit older, you start to understand, just how to control yourself, especially within your emotions and how you are. But having support is really the key to all these environments. Doing things by yourself, not having an outlet to be able to just, people call it venting, yet realistically it's your opportunity just to voice you, and it's not about being accepted. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever that is. It's just that opportunity to be able to go, blah, I just need to get this out. And then
finding spaces that you can do that safely without having any judgment on you about it.
And this is the thing. There's a whole sense of that when you're in a CEO role or a managing director role, where you're isolated. And if you do say something to the wrong person, well, let me tell you, they'll hang on to that and it'll get used against you, or you'll be judged for it, or you'll be gossiped about, or and as it is, that will happen regardless, because people will make their own opinions of you, whether you like it or not. But I think the key to it all, Jennifer, is just great support, great opportunity to communicate, and never giving up.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you've just reminded me of is that to be successful, you got to find the right partner in life. Like the person that's going to be there even when you screw up.
Yeah.
Right? That loves you anyway, right? So talk about motorbikes and mindset. So I know that you ride off-road. How do you use that to clear your head, and what leadership insights strike you most often while you're on two wheels?
Motorbikes has kind of been a passion and a curse. let's just say it's definitely an outlet. I think that everybody needs an outlet. It doesn't matter what that outlet is, as long as you have an outlet. It doesn't matter whether you're a man, woman, child. The reality is life, and you've got to have something that you really enjoy, you're passionate about, gives you some social interaction that's different to the social interaction you have every day. It gives you the opportunity to just be yourself. The thing with what I do, it's great physical activity. It can be quite challenging. It's just one of those. It's actually quite an independent sport as well. Even though you're with a group of people, it's still just you. So you can participate with people as much as you want to. And I've been able to, raise my boys with camping and trail rides and hospitals. And,
so you've raised adventurous boys.
Yeah. And it's been, and like I think my business ideas, as far as when you get those opportunities where you can just have your own mental space. Now, believe it or not, as much as I love motorbikes, I've had some really great business ideas while mowing the grass.
Yes.
And I get a lot of satisfaction out of mowing the grass. I live on acreage, so generally I'm sitting on a mower for a little while, and you know, I've had some amazing epiphanies whilst just cruising along in that numb state, you know,
doing mundane
going
tasks.
backwards and forwards, you know, on the mower, just to then have an idea and kind of let that idea flow. And you're only just doing it in the solitude of your own brain, but you're just letting it just go to wherever it wants to go. And then it's up to you what you do with it.
Fabulous. So let's just talk about advice and legacy as we close out. For a young entrepreneur just starting, an equipment hire, let's just pretend that you know, if you were giving a piece of advice to that person, their first big hire, right? What's the first role they should fill and why?
Great question. Well, first of all, I'd say don't do it because I don't do any more competition. So that's just selfish.
Let's just pretend.
Let's just pretend. My first question would be, what are they? Who are they?
Yeah.
Because are they the people that are actually out there selling, or are they the people that are doing the operations? Because this is the question that they would need to ask themselves. Because if they're not the salesperson, the first job is going to be the salesperson. If they are the salesperson, well, then they need a good backbone. So someone that's actually going to be able to get, you know, the sale to reality. So that would be my advice to them. They really, you can't have one without the other, and they can't be warring factions. They've got to be two things that are aligned. So that would be the key.
So, you know, what are you good at?
Yeah.
And therefore, what are you not good at? And don't pretend you are.
Yeah. And again, I think that there's a lot to be said about not being the smartest person in the room. I get a lot out of that. I love being in that space.
Yeah.
And if everybody's really honest with themselves, it depends on the topic. They're not the smartest person in the room. When it's their thing, absolutely, you could be. What are you missing out on by not actually allowing other people to view what they're good at?
So, legacy in steel and people, a decade from now, what do you hope contractors, employees and communities will say maybe hire changed for the better under your watch?
I'd like to really think it'd be about what's been created and, you know, what's actually sitting there from that and the extensions of that. It'll be the ideas that I haven't thought of. It'll be the ideas that have come from the people that have been within, the initiatives that they've taken on, the processes that they've built, you know, the people that they've developed. I think that would be the legacy. I'd really like to think that that's the culture that I've created.
Cool. So, Brendan Flaxman from Maybe Hire. For those of you who need shoring, these are the people to talk to. I've spent 7 years in relationship with this extraordinary business and CEO. Thank you so much for being with us in Slicing Through the Noise. There is a lot of noise when you're leading, and I've noticed how much you can slice through it nowadays.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Well, that wraps up today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and want to keep the momentum going, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss the latest insights and stories from extraordinary leaders. We appreciate you tuning in and can't wait to share more with you soon. Thanks for listening.